I will bet that you didn't even know that I saved America. I mean, I may have helped, but genuinely, I was part of an organization called LoveTalks, which was holding uh, parties essentially on the street of Portland for unhoused people. So this was actually my friend Linda's brainchild. It started at the very beginning of the COVID lockdown. She and her family had been going through in the Pearl District area, by Skidmore Fountain. There is if you're familiar at all with Portland, Oregon, there's a transit center right there. It's right on the edge of the tourist district. It's one of those spots that's like really scary and sketchy, but if you need drugs for your bachelor party, that's where you go. There's kind of an open air drug market going on there, as well as people who are like passed out. Um, but that was an area that she had been going and doing like ministry on the street with people there for quite some time. And shortly after the COVID lockdown started, she discovered that people had been left on the street without, all of the social services were operating under greatly reduced hours or operations. People didn't have access to food. There was no running water. There were no facilities. Like nothing had been done to help or accommodate people left on the street when the COVID lockdowns happened. And the only people who were out were police officers and people from the Department of Homeland Security. And it was really just a recipe for a disaster. Linda went home and said, we have to do something. We have to go out there. Let's make dinner. We'll put it in packages and we'll pass it out on the streets. And then, at least the police will see that somebody's out there. These people aren't actually completely alone. So she started doing that, and it actually grew into an entire operation where she would she would prepare food right there on the street. There was a tear down kitchen. There were tents with tables, for people to eat at. There were charging stations. There was art. She blared gospel music. She tried to put up decorations. There were lights and rugs put out, and it was really a fun, comfortable environment for people to be in. And it ran from March of 2020 through, I think it pretty much had to stop around January of 2021. So this covered not only the COVID lockdowns, but also the protests that erupted after the murder of George Floyd. And in fact, the spot that the gatherings were held at was about 3/4 of a mile away from where the main protest in Portland, Oregon, were going on, which, if you remember from that time, those protests were really intense. And in fact, there was an issue where you were seeing things like federal agents in unmarked vans pulling protesters off the street, which is all kinds of civil rights violations right there. We now know from many people who were in the room that Donald Trump was looking for an excuse. He really wanted to turn the military on the protesters. And he was kind of looking for an excuse to use the Insurrection Act and declare martial law. Well, we had every so often a police officer would kind of collar one of the people who helped run it when he was away from the site. And they told him, they said, look, people have called to complain about you guys every single night since you guys first set up. And we've never responded, which is the God's honest truth. They didn't. They left us alone entirely. And they said, the thing is that the people who are coming to your guys' event, those are the people who tend to cause us the most problems. So when they're at your event, we're not chasing them all over the place. They're not committing crimes. Nobody's overdosing. Nobody's fighting. It just really, and everybody's in one place where we can keep an eye on them. So they were like, really, you guys make our jobs much easier. And one of the cops who stopped and talked to this guy, said to him, and also these protests, think about it. If some of the people who you guys have here, who are coming here every night, if they had gotten involved in those protests instead, you're talking about a very strong criminal element. You're talking about people with behavior problems, people who are prone to violence and emotional outburst. If you had put those people, if they got involved in the protest, think about what could have happened. Like, it's entirely conceivable, if not likely and predictable, that somebody would have done something that would have given Trump the excuse he needed to declare martial law. And consider, and this is me, this is the cops, kind of just let that slip, but consider that if that had happened, if Trump had somebody had done something, some criminal behavior had been exposed, or some violent activity had occurred, or something really outrageous happened at those protests there in Portland, just 3/4 of a mile away from where we were. If he had declared martial law, would we even have had a normal election in 2020? And even if we did, given what we know about how people's brains work, once you had this level of very intense conflict, the division would have been between law and order and revolution, lawlessness. That would have been the choice that would have been being portrayed. And can we really have said that Donald Trump would not have won in 2020? So I'm sharing this honestly, not to be like, oh, look what I did. Because I did a lot, but it wasn't my baby. And I didn't set out to do anything other than serve people, try and build a model that, we had plans for it. Like it was going to be something. And we were never able to get that off the ground. But without having set out to do it, it is very, very likely that we did play some small, or maybe not so small, part in preventing a much worse outcome than we got. And yes, I know it didn't work in 2024. I'm sorry. No good deed goes unpunished, and I was still recovering, and I guess no one showed up. I don't know. Or maybe it wasn't so easy this time. I don't know. But as we move forward, one, I do think it was to our benefit that we got a reprieve, that Donald Trump did not win in 2020, that we did have a normal election then. And then we had 4 years of, reasonably competent, pretty good, other than the genocide, governance of America. I think that's to the good. But as we move forward, I would really invite people to think about, what can I do that does not involve opposition, resistance, fighting, that is simply in service to other people, in service to living out my values. Because even though there was nothing motivating me, like the most political thing about this for me was, if you would have asked, I would say this was my protest because I want to live in a world where even the most disfavorable, dirty, unpleasant, homeless person is viewed as a human being with rights who deserves good things. That's the world I want to live in, because if that person has standing to be recognized as a human being with rights who deserves good things, then we all have standing to claim that for ourselves. And that's the world I want to live in. So that was what I was doing to help to create that. And no doubt you have a vision for a world that you would like to live in as well. And now is the time to think about what that might look like in action. And don't think it's small. Don't think it doesn't matter. You know, we did this. It was a pretty big production. We had a family, the Winnetka family out of Battleground, Washington, funded it. And it was a few $100,000. It wasn't like super cheap, but also compared to like what they were paying for cops during that period, like it's a drop and a drop and a drop. Like it's just a fraction of a fraction of a fraction, you know? So look at where you're at. Like your dreams for a better world. I mean, even if they don't all come true, they can't make it worse, right? And they might actually have a real impact that you never, ever, ever expected. Because there's a whole world that needs saving. And I actually believe that we have it among us to do what we need to do. So I could be wrong, but maybe you'd like to prove me right. Anyways, I love you all. I will talk with you again soon. In the meantime, head over to my website, The Upside Down World, www.theupsidedownworld.com. On the front page there, you can find videos. There are a couple, you might have to dig a little to find them, from the streets of Portland. You can find a few more stories from that time. You can also go to my YouTube channel. The link is on my website, and there you will find all kinds of videos with all kinds of stuff, including a few more stories from the streets of Portland. Those will be on the playlist titled Age Inappropriate Adventures. That's probably not all that's there, but anyways, take a look. Please pass it around. Check out my merchandise store. Christmas is coming. And who does not need a mug with a nun smoking a cigarette, giving the finger, and reading the Bible? I mean, you know your grandma does. Come on. Anyways, love you all. I'll talk to you later. Bye.